I don't know anyone who hasn't had any sort of reprimand. We all had to deal with some punishment on a particular day of our lives, but much to the misfortune of some, there are some terrible punishments. Greek mythology is no different in that regard. The gods are often merciful, but some individuals manage to make them lose their temper, and in return they got the worst punishments of Greek mythology. IXION was an extremely evil man, so wicked that he built a burning chamber and ornamented it as if it was just another room in his house. One day he invited his father-in-law, Dionysus, to stay in his residence and offered him a room. In the dead of the night, the chamber was turned on, burning Dionysus. The screams were so horrifying that IXION regretted his action. Zeus showed his mercy for him, given his remorse, and invited him to a feast. Sitting alongside the gods, he was marveled by Hera's beauty, and with one foot, fondled the legs of the goddess. Obviously, the faithful wife told her husband. IXION had no second opportunity. Zeus pierced him with a bolt and threw him into Tartarus. As punishment, he was tied to a flaming wheel. Instead of strings, the god used snakes. IXION was condemned to spin in the heat of hell throughout eternity. Tantalus was the king of Phrygia and son of Zeus, but that did not prevent him to endure the worst punishment of Greek mythology. He was thirsty for power, and was described as one of the most selfish men in the world. But since he was the son of the supreme god, he was deeply cherished in Olympus, and was constantly invited to feast with the gods. On a particular occasion, ruled by his ambition to become immortal, he stole a bit of nectar and ambrosia, the food of the gods, but they soon noticed their absence. Tantalus now felt like a supreme being, but his joy did not last long. Zeus threw Tantalus into a lake. As punishment, he did not allow him to eat. Despite being surrounded by greenery and having water up to his neck, he could not reach both. Whenever he tried to drink the water of the lake, its levels dropped, staying forever away from his mouth. Whenever he tried to grab fruit, the branches of the trees stretched themselves, and he was unable to reach them with his arms. So Tantalus suffered internally without being able to eat nor drink. Sisyphus was the king of Corinth. He was so clever that he once managed to fool Thanatos, the god of death. When he entered the palace of Corinth, Sisyphus was surprised by Thanatos, who had come back to pick him at the behest of Zeus. But the boy was elusive. He praised and offered several ornaments to the lord of death, who was not used to that sort of treatment. The creature accepted some of Sisyphus's treats, but he did not know that one of the collars was actually an enchanted flesh. The wicked angel was imprisoned. The disappearance of Thanatos started a period in which people no longer died. This infuriated Hades and Ares. No one was dying in wars, and the underworld ceased to receive new souls. These gods decided to invade the kingdom of Sisyphus, free Thanatos, and take the king to Tartarus. As punishment, the unfortunate man was forced to push a boulder to the top of the mountains of the underworld, and every time he was able to reach the peak, the boulder rolled back to the start, this thus being Sisyphus's eternal punishment. Yet another king who was a part of the list of the punished. This was ERYSICHTHON of Thessaly. ERYSICHTHON was skeptical, profane, and did not fear the gods. One day, ruled by his ambition to further increase his power, he started to shatter everything around him. So he, with his own hands, started to cut down the most beautiful and ancient trees that had the spirits of the Dryads, consecrated to the goddess Demeter. While he smashed them with his axe, blood gushed out from the trees. Demeter, furious, ordered Aethon, the Hunger, to invade the body of ERYSICHTHON, condemning him in life. From that moment, ERYSICHTHON could no longer curb his appetite, despite having at his disposal an abundant amount of food. Bankrupt and dissatisfied, he reached a point where he sold his daughter to get more food. One night under a tree, feeling ruined, alone, and still hungry, he had no other choice left but to eat his own body. The next day, at dawn, there was nothing left of him. Calliope was a nymph of the mountains. If someone could be elected as the world's most lazy, that was Calliope. Legend says that the recently infatuated Zeus and Hera decided to marry. The supreme god instructed Hermes, the messenger of the gods, to invite all earthly beings for the feast. All attended, with just one exception, Calliope. Zeus ordered Hermes to call her again, and taking slow steps, Clone went to Olympus. But before her arrival, and still only halfway there, the ceremony had already ended. Furious with Clone's insolence, Hermes punished her. "You are lazy, indolent, and you give preference to your house and not to the compound of the gods. From now on, you will always carry your house." Clone was then transformed into a turtle. Prometheus was instructed by Zeus to raise all the animals of the earth, including man. Sparing no efforts, the Titans gave the animals several skills, such as agility, strength, ability to fly, swim, etc. There was almost no skill left when it was time to give them to man, and they simply shaped him with clay. Then, Prometheus had an idea, to steal the fire from the heavens and deliver it to men, to make them intelligent beings and superior to other animals. Obviously, this intent enraged Zeus. Because of that, Prometheus was condemned to spend 30,000 years chained to the top of Mount Caucasus, where an eagle devoured, day after day, his exposed liver. The liver is an organ that regenerates itself. There it was on the following day, whole again, ready to feed the birds. The family of the twin brothers Danaus and Aegyptus was famous for its capacity for reproduction. Danaus had 50 daughters, known as Danaids. Aegyptus, in turn, conceived 50 men. To keep everything in the family, Aegyptus suggested a union between his sons and his brother's daughters, but Danaus refused it and fled with them. For many years, they were hunted by the claimants and ended up being found in Argos. The 50 men threatened to kill the Danaids if they did not accept to marry them. So their father agreed to concede his daughters, but advised them to murder their husbands on the wedding night, and they did it cruelly. Each beheaded their husband and threw their heads into the swamp of the Lernaean Hydra. As punishment for such brutality, the Danaids were sentenced to fill a large vessel with water in Hades until it was bursting with liquid. This was the only way the girls had to escape the punishment, and apparently it was something very easy. But it never happened, because the vessel had no bottom.